In the headlines of this hour on VTV News, Prime Minister urges faster and more sustainable development of Quoc. And later on, Vietnam disburses payments to North Central provinces for carbon emission reductions.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is currently 8 a.m. local time and you're tuning in to 15 minutes of VTV News. I'm Lilin Lei with the latest updates. Now, Prime Minister Pham recently attended a conference to review the implementation of Decision Number 178. This decision, made by the Prime Minister in 2004, approved the overall development plan for Fuk Island in Kiên Giang Province until 2010, with a vision towards 2020. More on this to follow.
Over the course of nearly 20 years since the implementation of Decision Number 178, Quoc has experienced significant improvements, boasting an annual growth rate of nearly 19.6%. The value of tourism activity has grown by over 38% per year between 2011 and 2023, which is 6 times higher than the national average. On behalf of the government, the Prime Minister acknowledged and praised the efforts and achievements of both Quoc and Kiên Giang Province. He highlighted 6 key areas after 20 years of development.
Firstly, we need to promote the improvement of market-oriented mechanisms and policies. Second, we should promote the development of synchronous and modern strategic infrastructure in transportation, healthcare, education, society, information technology, and environmental protection. Third, we need to promote more decentralization of power. Fourth, we should encourage production and business based on science and technology, and form production and supply chains. Fifth, we should promote the historical and cultural traditions of Quoc, Kiên Giang, and the Mekong Delta region in association with the development of services and tourism. Sixth, we need to promote support from ministries, branches, and localities for Quoc and Kiên Giang.
The leader has tasked the Ministry of Planning and Investment, in coordination with other ministries and localities, to formulate a new project for Quoc's development. This project aims to accelerate the island's growth in a more sustainable manner.
The General Statistics Office, or GSO, commenced the Midterm Population and Housing Census for 2024 nationwide on April the 1st. The full results will be published in November to December, with detailed analytical reports being released the following year. The census will serve as a reference to evaluate the implementation of the Socio-Economic Development Plan for 2021 to 2025. It will also aid in formulating population and housing policies and plans for 2026 to 2030, as well as monitoring the implementation of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, to which the government has committed. Vietnam plans to apply trade defense measures or anti-dumping duties on imported goods to protect the domestic manufacturing sector in case of unfair competition. However, the implementation of these measures needs to be seriously considered too for sustainable application in individual cases. For instance, domestic production of steel only meets about 30% of the demand, while the remaining 70% is imported. Faced with proposals to impose anti-dumping duties on imported steel materials, the Ministry of Industry and Trade and relevant agencies are carefully studying the negative impacts of the measures on this industry.
The company has to spend 20 million dong to purchase each ton of finished rolled steel. This price has been stable for the past year. However, the company is concerned that production costs will soar if hot-rolled steel imports are subjected to trade defense taxes.
We assume that applying a protective tax of 10%, for example, would lead to a 7% increase in the selling price of our output to customers. This significantly affects the contracts we have already signed.
According to a report by the Vietnam Steel Association, Vietnam needs about 11 million tons of hot-rolled steel annually to meet its production needs. However, over 7 million tons of this material needs to be imported each year. Therefore, imposing trade defense taxes could jeopardize the steel industry's production and export competitiveness.
Our export products will face double anti-dumping duties, one in Vietnam on raw materials and another in the exporting country on the finished product. Consequently, our finished products cannot compete with those of other countries.
Regarding this matter, a representative from the Ministry of Industry and Trade stated that assessment and initiation of investigations must be carried out within a year before reporting to the Ministry's board for a decision on whether to investigate the case.
The Trade Remedies Authority will conduct assessments and gather complete data as required by the WTO and foreign trade management laws. We must fully comply with these issues during the investigation process.
Excessive use of these measures can drive up domestic prices and the selling prices of domestic products. Therefore, the government also needs to exert pressure on companies in this industry to improve technological capabilities, reduce production costs.
According to the Trade Remedies Authority, steel is one of the most frequently targeted products of trade defense measures worldwide. 7 out of 670 cases are in Vietnam alone. However, the imposition of trade defense measures is only considered when harm is detected in the domestic steel industry.
The significant increase in international shipping rates is currently posing challenges for export businesses. The rate has surged by over 70% compared to the same period last year and by 110% relative to pre-pandemic levels. Several strategies are being proposed to decrease these fees, which will enhance the competitiveness of Vietnamese export products in the global market.
In just the first 2 months of this year, this processing company exported 1,300 tons of seafood products to the US, EU, and Japan. Although export turnover has tripled compared to the same period last year, the company's profits have decreased due to rising freight costs. Tensions in the Red Sea have forced ships to take longer routes, resulting in a 1.8 to 2.5-fold increase in delivery rates.
Our customers pay for the freight fees. The current rising costs are burdening them and causing them to halt orders. We have to offer them discounts to partially cover the shipping costs.
Shipping costs to both Europe and America are seeing significant increases. It is suggested that authorities provide support to businesses to help them overcome these challenges.
Shipping companies have to pay quite high taxes. These include safety inspection fees and insurance fees. In the current context, the state or relevant agencies should consider reducing these fees to support maritime shipping companies.
A project to develop Vietnam's container fleet is necessary for Vietnam to proactively maintain international transport connections with the world. This will help reduce the current sole reliance on foreign shipping lines.
Almost 90% of Vietnam's trade volume is transported by sea, primarily using small bulk carriers. Therefore, expanding the national container and cargo aircraft fleets, along with modernizing railway transport, could reduce sea transport rates. These changes would also enhance the competitiveness of Vietnamese businesses and products.
Welcome back to VTV News Live. Now, the National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting anticipates an increase in both the frequency and severity of heat waves across the northern region, from Thanh Hóa to Phú Yên, starting April the 1st. This prolonged period of intense heat is expected to last for several days. As a result, it's important to take precautions against increased fire and explosion risks in residential areas due to higher electricity usage, as well as the heightened risk of forest fires. Those working outdoors should also be mindful of exhaustion and heat stroke due to extended exposure to high temperatures. Vietnam recently received $9.9 million from the World Bank, equating to 20% of the remaining amount from the Emissions Reduction Purchase Agreement, or ERPA, for 2018 to 2024. The World Bank has previously disbursed $40 million, equivalent to 80% of the agreement. This funding is crucial for supporting forest protection in 6 north-central provinces of Vietnam. The Vietnam Forest Protection and Development Fund has already disbursed Phase 1 funds to localities and made payments to forest owners. This sets the stage for Vietnam to launch a carbon credit market in the near future.
The Emissions Reduction Purchase Agreement includes 6 provinces: Thanh Hóa, Nghệ An, Hà Tĩnh, Quảng Bình, Quảng Trị, and Thừa Thiên Huế. Under this agreement, Vietnam will transfer 10.3 million tons of carbon through the World Bank. The amount of emissions is based on efforts to reduce deforestation or degradation across 3.1 million hectares of forests in the 6 provinces.
The agreement with the World Bank aims to pay residential communities and secondary target groups in localities, while forest owners will receive only 10%. This is a new point that we're piloting, aiming to promulgate policies for the entire country.
At present, the funds received from the first phase have been distributed among the 6 provinces participating in the agreement. Notably, 96.5% is allocated to the Forest Protection and Development Fund of these provinces. From this, 90% is further divided among forest owners and local communities involved in forest protection. Although Vietnam transferred only 10.3 million tons of carbon to the World Bank, it actually possesses a total of 16.2 million tons of carbon. Consequently, Vietnam still retains 9.5 million tons of measured carbon.
The first option we propose is to sell 1 million tons of carbon to the World Bank and the remaining 4.9 million tons to other units through the World Bank. The second option is for the Ministry of Finance and other ministries to carry out a pilot transfer on the carbon trading floor.
The Emissions Reduction Purchase Agreement in north-central Vietnam is a pioneering initiative. It sets an important precedent for the country to prepare subsequent steps to cut emissions in the Central Highlands and South Central region. This is with a view towards nationwide implementation and the establishment of a forest carbon credit market by 2028.
The Civil Aviation Authority of Vietnam, CAAV, plans to increase the takeoff and landing frequency of Tet International Airport. This change is in response to the increased travel demand on Southern Liberation Day, National Reunification Day on April 30th, and May Day. The CAAV will adjust the frequency from 42 flights per hour to 44 flights per hour between 6 a.m. and 11:55 p.m., between 0-hour a.m. or 12 a.m. and the 5:55 a.m. Hanoi time. The frequency will change from 32 flights to 36 flights per hour. The Cultural Tourism Week in the South Central province of Phie began on the evening of March 30th in Tuy Hoa City, themed Rediscovering the Heritage Region. The event, running until April the 5th, features a variety of activities such as exhibition fairs, promotion of OCOP or One Commune One Product products, culinary showcases, and tourism exhibitions. Additionally, performances of intangible cultural heritage and displays of traditional Phú costumes are also included. The local authorities have organized activities that highlight the province's cultural richness to attract tourists. Notably, as part of the 2024 Phú Cultural Tourism Week, the 65th Dien Phong Newspaper Marathon and Long Distance Championship have attracted over 11,000 participants. And before we say goodbye, let's have a look at the weather forecast for Vietnam and other locations in the world. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website, our YouTube channel, or download a mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.